Well, it's extremely quiet. How about a big hello to everybody in Tampa, Florida? Listen, I'm just here to say the prayer, but it can't be that quiet, all right? So, as this governor always does, he puts God first in everything that he does, as should we. So if you would please join me and bow your heads as we pray to our Lord above. Dear God, please provide providence to our governor as he takes on the states and shows the way of Florida's freedom. Please, God, help those sheriffs that we're about to honor today and highlight their support. Make sure that your hand guides them as they provide safety and security as first responders in making our state safe. Dear God, please provide providence over the state legislators, Ashley Moody, and every other elected official who's up here as they take on the charge of protesters and those who believe that they have a better way. May God bring you into the light, protect Florida, and continue to bless Ron DeSantis. In your name, we pray.
Hello, Tampa. We are now going to pledge to the greatest flag of the greatest country this world has ever seen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Man, it is great to be here today. It's amazing to see so many familiar faces, leaders, warriors, people who I've gone to battle with. Romy, Gabby, I want to highlight you for being here. I love you, brother. Thank you. Friends, we're here today to talk about a couple of things that are near and dear to my heart. One is leadership. In hard times, we need strong leaders. We need battle-tested leaders. We need people who have been there, done that, and come back for more. But we also want to talk a little bit about safety and security. This is our home. First and foremost, I'm not a state senator. As much as I love being a Green Beret, I am not a retired Green Beret. I am a dad, and I am a husband first and foremost. And I will not fail, thank you. And I will not fail in the mission to protect and provide for our families. And we're here today to talk about security. Let's look at what's going on in our world right now. Because of the Biden crime family and all the crazy things they're doing, we see the CCP in Russia pushing out there. Their teeth and claws are bared. China is on a new long march to take back and dominate the world. That's not what we want. That's not the American way, right? If you look across our nation, you can see the problems caused by a lack of strong leadership. From the Golden Gate in California to the halls in Philadelphia, we have riots. We have police on their heels. We have cities burning down, unrest. We have prosecutors unwilling to prosecute criminals and hold them accountable. How can we be a nation of laws if we don't do that? I would submit that we cannot. Across this nation, we look to one space. Here in Florida, what do you suppose our number one export is? Tourism? Nah, man, it's freedom. We know what's right. When you look at the international stage, you look at the country, you see a lack of leadership, but you do not see that in Florida. We hear you, Laura. Pipe down just a little bit, please. What we have here in Florida is a leader who has the courage, the candor, and the commitment to do what's necessary, the candor to speak the truth. And my friends, he has the commitment to follow through and make sure those things happen. We are so blessed to have had him lead here, to stand up for law enforcement, to pay them more, to give back to our community, to make this a destination where law enforcement wants to come. We back our blue unequivocally, day in and day out. Because we know that leadership matters. And that leader is Ron DeSantis, and he will. And he will be the next president of the United States. We are blessed. And here's how I know why. Because he is an amazing governor, but he is a dad, he is a husband, he is a veteran, and he is someone who has done hard things and gone back to the well time after time. He understands one universal truth, that in this nation, we have a responsibility that we are blessed to carry, and that is to protect, provide, and preserve those freedoms, those truths that we hold to be self-evident for our children, just like our families did for us. And as we go about our days, understand that he is doing this willingly, going to the well time and time again. And he's blessed to have other people stand beside him. Our Attorney General, Ashley Moody, is here today, and I get the honor of introducing her. And along with her, we have a few of the sheriffs. 60 of 67 sheriffs support our governor because they understand what he's doing. So without further ado, I would like to call on America's Attorney General, Ms. Ashley Moody.
Well, hello. I brought some backup with me. Some of America's finest right here. We're standing here strong today. And if you'll look at the list of the law enforcement leaders across the state of Florida that have come out strong for Governor DeSantis, they are Republicans, they are Democrats, they are independents, but they know he is the leader this nation needs to ensure we have a backbone of blue and stability throughout these United States of America. And when Governor DeSantis and I first got in office, and we're so grateful to you and so many Floridians who trusted us to lead this amazing state, as we saw the nation in so many parts of this country descend into chaos, as we watched businesses flee once great thriving cities, as we watched families pack up and move across the country to escape bad, devastating, liberal, radical policies, this governor held strong because he understands to have a safe, thriving, successful state, you have to have the back of those that enforce the law. And it didn't matter if it was a corporation or a radical activist that sought to undermine or disrespect law enforcement. Governor DeSantis never wavered, never backed down. He always stood strong. And when other parts, other leaders, other jurisdictions defunded, demurred in the face of chaos, he stood resolute and said that will never happen in Florida. And as we watched all of that insanity take place, he ensured we did the opposite of defunding. We funded, we gave raises, we gave training programs, we gave bonuses to move here. We did housing programs for cops and their families. And this is what is great about Governor DeSantis. He does not just talk. If you're a Floridian and you've watched the last 4 years, he does not just say, I've got their back. He digs in, gets the job done. I call him DeSantis the doer. DeSantis the doer. And so as other law enforcement agencies across this nation face devastating, unsafe loss of ranks, in Florida, we have waiting lists to get in. Half of our waiting lists are officers from other nations that we've convinced to move to Florida to be a Florida hero. And they are happy to do it and escape the nonsense policies from California, New York, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Portland. They want to move to a state of sanity and common sense and leadership under Governor DeSantis. Florida is leading the nation in net migration. He is the reason Florida is leading the nation in new business formations. He is the reason we are breaking tourism records every single year. Because Florida may be known for an orange, but we are bold for blue. And that is why you see so many of our law enforcement leaders around this state standing up for him when he stood up for them. And when he stood up for them, you know who he was really fighting for? Floridians and their families and our communities and our way of life and the future of this great state. So without further ado, I want to bring up one of our truly heroic law enforcement leaders, Wayne Ivey from Brevard County.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am honored to be standing on this stage, not only with our Attorney General, but with these amazing law enforcement officers and sheriffs that represent just a few of the sheriffs that have now endorsed Governor Ron DeSantis. 60 Florida sheriffs all understand that Governor DeSantis has been the backbone of Back the Blue. Governor DeSantis has stood with us, has listened to our challenges, has said very boldly, we are going to protect our citizens, we are going to protect our state, and we are going to partner together to get it done. Governor DeSantis, like each of us on this stage, understands that government's one and only responsibility is to protect its citizens. He understands that that goes as far as protecting our citizens, our cops, and our Constitution. Protecting our rights all folds into that, even the rights of someone that doesn't necessarily agree. Governor DeSantis has stood with us. Because of his leadership, we have been able to recruit incredible law enforcement officers from around the country. We've been able to take care of the incredible brave men and women that were already working in our forces to protect our communities. They say that past performance predicts performance. Well, all you have to do is look at the performance of Governor Ron DeSantis, and you know that we need him to take the Florida model to the nation. I will tell you that when we go to our sheriff's conferences, you can't get 60 sheriffs to agree on anything, not even where we're going to lunch. But 60 of us have united behind this governor. 60 of us understand that we need him to fix the crime problem that's plaguing our nation. And it's ironic that that crime problem is plaguing our nation, but Florida is at an all-time crime rate low. Now, I'm from the Space Coast where we have rocket scientists, but you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out why that is. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that our crime rate is dropping because we have leadership from the top down that is standing up for law and order. We have a governor and attorney general that are getting the job done, that are standing with us and backing the brave men and women that keep evil away from your door while you sleep soundly in your bed. Folks, we need Ron DeSantis. We need Governor DeSantis to take his plan to the nation so that citizens across this great country can once again sleep safely and soundly in their beds. It is my distinct honor, on behalf of all of our sheriffs, to introduce Florida's Governor, Ron DeSantis.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you, Wayne. Thanks to all the sheriffs. We're so glad to have your support. And thanks for all that you do to make Florida the freest state in these United States.
We were just out in California last week for the presidential debate and the Reagan Library in Southern California, and I ran into a police chief for one of the municipalities. I said, how you all doing? How's it going? He's like, well, we're good. It's just all my officers want to move to Florida now. But if you look, there's a lot of problems that we see in this country, and you look at Florida, we've tackled those problems here, and we've created a place where people do want to come, not just for families, not just for businesses, but yes, to serve in uniform. And it's something that we're really proud of. You know, we were out in California, and the first thing we did was we did an event at the Veterans of Foreign Wars in Coronado in Southern California. And that brought back memories for me, because when I was in the Navy, I got orders to go to Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, and we trained, and that's where we deployed to Iraq as part of Naval Special Warfare Group 1 and the Team 1 and all that. So I am a Florida native. I had not spent much time in Southern California. When I checked into the bachelor officer quarters, the first thing I did as a true Floridian, I looked for the air conditioning unit. They're like, they don't have air conditioning here. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, you don't need it. Just open the window. It's so nice. So I opened the window. There was no screen on the window, which in Florida, you know, we usually have screen because the bug. No, you don't need a screen. There's no bug. So you do that. It's just like fresh. It's great. All this stuff. And I'll never forget coming back from Iraq, going to Coronado, getting off that C-5, and just, it was such a great feeling, partially to be back in America, but it was just a great, nice feeling, and I could see why people would want to live there. So my views of that, particularly the southern part of the state, were positive just on that experience. Fast forward to me becoming governor, and even though I was born and raised here, I never remember seeing any California license plates in Florida. We start seeing all these California license plates coming to our state. And a lot of my supporters were concerned about this because they didn't like, are we going to import Berkeley to Florida and then turn it into different? No, we can't do that. Well, it turns out most of these folks were so fed up with what was going on out there that they pick up their lives, their businesses, their families, and they move across the entire continental United States. You did that. There you go. You did that too. You did that too. From California? Okay. Yeah. And so you're seeing that. So that you moved too? Okay. From California? Michigan? Where? New York, Rhode Island? New Hampshire? Where? Nevada? California? Where in California? Oh, San Francisco. You? Where? South Africa. You know, it's a good point. We were the focus of freedom, not just for the United States, for all over the world during COVID. We had people coming here. So why were people doing it? Well, yes, they were fleeing COVID authoritarianism in San Francisco, California, LA, Chicago, all these places. I'll never forget the people that left those lockdown states. The first time they arrived in Florida, go to the airport, they get out, and they were like, whoa, people are actually living their lives. And it was like being in a different country. So we became the place, not just people to move to, but to visit and just to get a break. And I've run into people across the country that thanked me because they spent 3 weeks in Florida in like the winter of 2020, 2021, and they were able to escape in Illinois or Michigan or some of these places. So we played a part of it. So that was part of it. But I can tell you this, and we understand how important it was, but we had to fight back against a lot of people to keep this state free. When we were taking stands to make sure the kids were in school, to make sure our businesses could stay open, all these things, I was getting attacked, I was getting pilloried, the media, all this stuff. And you know what? We were right and they were wrong. We did it right. Now, I was doing an interview when I was out in California, and it was Bill Maher on HBO, and he said, you were right. You didn't get the credit you deserve for what COVID, all that stuff. But, what I said back was, honestly, I don't want credit. What I want is the people that push those policies to be held accountable for what they did. Because if you look at the problems in this country right now, many of them go back to the decision in March of 2020 to shut the country down, to spend trillions and print trillions of dollars, and they did $6 trillion over a one-year period from March of 2020 to March of 2021. Do you think you're going to get inflation when you do that? Of course you're going to do that. And I don't think we would have had the BLM riots if it weren't for the COVID lockdowns. I think that created a lot of pent-up anger in people that led to all that. And obviously we didn't let that happen here, but I mean, that you saw that. So going back there, so as president, I'm going to hold these people accountable for what they did. Fauci, the CDC, the NIH, FDA. We're going to drain that medical swamp. We're going to hold them accountable because they want to do it again. And we can never let this happen to our country again. And we are going to do that. And that's something very important. So that was one of the reasons why people came. Obviously, do you want to pay? California has very high state income tax. We don't have income tax in Florida, and we're never going to have it. And that's good. But here's the thing. We don't have income tax. We rely on sales tax, and yet California's sales tax is much higher than Florida's. They have the highest sales tax in the country. So I get why people would want to break from that. Businesses want to break from the regulatory overreach, all that stuff for sure. But one of the reasons why people came to Florida was because they knew they and their family would be safe in the state of Florida. And they were not safe in Chicago. They were not safe in Los Angeles. They're not safe in New York City because those communities turn their back on public safety. They turn their back on law enforcement. They empowered elected prosecutors who then wouldn't enforce the law and wouldn't hold people accountable. And what happened in those communities is those communities got destroyed. And I've been to San Francisco in the last few months. Businesses still boarded up to this day. You have people using drugs on the street. You have people that actually defecate on the sidewalk. And this is something that's happening in the United States of America. So people would come here, any realtors out there, I'm sure you've asked, why did you come? And a number of them said public safety. I'm sick of having to worry about this. My wife and I were in Southern California. We're doing different events while we're out there. And we ran into about 6 or 7 people that had been mugged within the last year. And I'm thinking to myself, I've been going to events for how long? I've never met anybody in Florida who had been mugged. I'm not saying there's no crime, but it's almost like a common occurrence that this is happening. You know why it keeps happening? Because the perpetrators aren't put in jail where they belong. That's why it keeps happening. So this country needs to take a page out of Florida's playbook when it comes to law and order. We need law and order in this country more than ever. And we're going to bring that about. First of all, it matters to have a governor like I've been, and it will matter to have a president of the United States like I will be, that will stand up and defend the people that wear the uniform, the law enforcement community. It's important to do that. They don't get a lot of support in some of these cities. Obviously, their budgets have been slashed. You've seen a lot of attacks on police. And then you have prosecutors that won't prosecute. You have no cash bail where they get put right back on the street. So think about, put yourself in that position. If you're a police officer in one of those jurisdictions, you get no support, you get blamed. You can risk your life to apprehend somebody dangerous. They get put right back on the street. You got to do it all over again 2 weeks later. It's not good. Morale is low. And of course people aren't gonna want to be involved in that. And so we see that happening. And just the fact that you have somebody standing up and saying, we support what you do, that means a lot, because they don't get that in some of these cities. They don't get that in some of those states. And they certainly don't get it with the current president of the United States, I can tell you that. And so we need to do that. So that's going to be very important for us to just set that as something that's important, that we respect and we appreciate. It's also important because young people are not going to want to go into law enforcement if it's not viewed as a positive profession. And we in Florida have done a lot to streamline the ability to go to academy. If you join law enforcement in Florida as a young person, you get a $5,000 signing bonus from the state now. Police, sheriff's departments, state agencies, all that, we do it. And part of that is we want to show that this is meaningful for the state of Florida. You also get, if we recruit you from out of state, you get a $5,000 signing bonus. So people have come from Baltimore, New York City, Chicago, all these places. They've come, and I don't know, maybe these sheriffs can correct me, maybe some of the police chiefs around the state can correct me. I've not met anybody who regrets the move so far, and we've had a lot of people do it because they feel like they're in a community that appreciates what they're doing, they have the tools they need, they have good laws, and things just work out. So we're going to do that. I think it's very important to just be very honest. And when the media goes through these panics where they try to create these phony controversies, they did the thing in Ferguson, Missouri years ago where you had the guy and all the left in the media was saying that he put his hands up and was yelling, "Don't shoot," and then the cop just mowed him down. That was the narrative that they had put out. And it got a lot of protest, it whipped a lot of, and honestly, I understand that because that would be wrong. If that happened, that would be wrong. Well, what actually happened? Eric Holder, Attorney General under Obama, did the investigation, and they said that was a lie. There was no hands up, don't shoot, and that the officer acted responsibly given the circumstances of the case. And yet the media took it, they ran with it, politicians indulged it. With me as governor, I don't get caught up in these phony narratives. I call them out on the BS. I'm not doing things where there's not evidence for it, and we'll make sure as president we fight back when they're trying to create these false narratives. The other thing that we're seeing across the country are laws being implemented designed to give the criminals the ability to be back on the street after they're committing very dangerous crimes. They've eliminated cash bail in New York, in Illinois. They just did it in Los Angeles. This is going to be a carousel. People are going to be out. They're going to commit more crimes. They're going to be out again. And some of these judges are very weak with how they're treating these folks. We need to hold people accountable for their criminal misconduct. And that should apply everywhere in this country. And one of the worst things that's happened over the last decade is the election of prosecutors, oftentimes with funding by liberal activists like George Soros, where they get elected and then they say they're not going to enforce laws that they disagree with. And so in places like San Francisco, Los Angeles, these people that are getting mugged, a lot of times the perpetrator isn't prosecuted. And so they commit all these different crimes, and eventually they end up committing a really, really heinous crime. And people say, oh, gee, why didn't somebody do something in the past? Well, this is intentional, what's going on. I can tell you in Florida, we had an example in Tampa, we had an example in Orlando, and we took action and removed them from their posts because we're not going to put the public safety in jeopardy. It's not going to happen in the state of Florida. And we just had one a couple months ago in Orlando where we had to suspend the state attorney, and there was a whole bunch of stuff that was investigated. I'm looking at all this, and a lot of the law enforcement had been bugging me to do this for a long time. And I said, look, I have constitutional authority. You got to show the breach of duty, and if you do that, I'll act. Not only can I act, I have a responsibility to act at that point. And they did, and this was somebody who was flagrantly not fulfilling the oath of office, putting people back on the street. It ended up with 2 police officers shot in the face with some guy that should have been behind bars a long time ago. And I can tell you this, that decision that we made in August, that decision has saved lives in Central Florida. No question. No question. So as president, we are going to use the authorities of the executive branch and all relevant agencies to hold Soros-funded prosecutors accountable for their misconduct. We're not going to let our cities crumble anymore. We're not going to let people be victimized to no end by people that have a political agenda, and they're imposing that political agenda on the public in ways that, yes, people are dying, people are fleeing the cities, and we just can't be we can't succeed as a country if every urban area ends up being hollowed out because of runaway crime. So we're going to do something about it. And my promise is very simple. Whether you live in a red state, whether you live in a blue city, whether you live in a blue state, it shouldn't matter. The people that commit crimes must be brought to justice. They must be put in jail when they're committing serious crimes. Every American family has the right to be able to work hard and raise their kids in peace. With stability and with law and order. And we're going to make sure from sea to shining sea that the rule of law once again prevails in this country, and that people have a chance to do well regardless of what party is elected to be the mayor or to be the prosecutor. And that's going to make this country much stronger. We're going to get that done. A lot of stuff in politics is people make promises, they do slogans. The question is, what results are you able to deliver? And in Florida, and look, they were giving me great credit, and I appreciate that, but honestly, the fact that we have a 50-year low in the crime rate is because these folks and their deputies and the police folks are wearing the uniform, they're going out there, and they're risking their life to keep you safe. That's why we're doing it. So we're proud of having a 50-year low in the crime rate. We're proud to hold people accountable. We just had a law go into effect that authorizes the death penalty for pedophiles, and we're proud to be pushing forward on that. So we understand that this is a team effort. We understand that there's a lot of work that goes into this, that what's happened in Florida, there's a lot of people that have been able to do that. But we're proud of it, and we're not going to ever turn back, of course, in this state. But we need to turn the other direction throughout the United States and make sure that we're driving the crime rate low. So we are going to do that. And part of this, too, is you have to have your own country's borders secured. You can't have people pouring in illegally, committing crimes, running drugs. You know, with what they're doing, now they're saying Mayorkas, the DHS secretary, has asked to waive some environmental because there's a need to build a wall at the southern border. Well, I could have told you that a long time ago. It's interesting, though. I will actually get the wall built because we do need it built. But you can't just sloganeer about it. You actually got to get it done. And so we were in Iowa on Sunday. Donald Trump was there doing a rally, and he started talking about his famous promise to build the wall, have Mexico pay for it. And obviously that didn't happen. He said, well, look, there was never any way I could make Mexico. He's like, you can't just ask them to pay. There was no legal mechanism to get it done. He's like rationalizing this. That was not what he said at the rallies in 2016. I was there for those rallies. He was there. But it's also not true. You actually can get Mexico to pay for the wall. How do you do it? No, you don't just go to them and demand it. What you do is you impose fees on all remittances that are sent back to Mexico and other countries. It's billions and billions of dollars that we would be able to raise and then put towards building the border wall. So one of the things I like to point out to people is every promise I made as governor, I've delivered on 100%. I'll do the same as president. But not only that, I'm going to deliver on other people's promises. So I will follow and deliver on Donald Trump's promise to build the wall and have Mexico pay for it. We'll get that done too. But what they're doing at the border, what the cartels are doing at the border, they're running in product and they're killing tens of thousands of our fellow citizens every year. And look, we've got problems. Addiction is tough. We're actually, Florida, we're the only state in the country, I believe, or one of the few, where we've actually had a decline in the overdose rate in the last year. And that's because we have a program that we put in place called the Coordinated Opioid Response Network, the CORE network, and it's worked. But it's tough. It's a tough issue. The thing with the fentanyl, though, is they put that in all these different things now. You can have somebody that doesn't even use drugs. Maybe they take one painkiller or one Xanax, and if it's laced with fentanyl, they could die. We had a case in Florida where you had an 18-month-old toddler. Family rented an Airbnb. The toddler is playing on the carpet. Apparently, who had the Airbnb before was using drugs. There was residue from fentanyl on the carpet. The baby came in contact with the fentanyl residue, and the baby died as a result of that. So can you imagine, as a family, going to do some vacation, you check in, you have an 18-month-old just playing around, and all of a sudden they drop dead because of this poison that was left on the carpet? This is wrong. This should not be happening in the United States of America. So yes, we're going to declare the border to be a national emergency on day one. We are going to put the military at the U.S. southern border. We will build a wall. We'll stop the invasion. We'll make sure that you have remain in Mexico. When people know they're not just going to be let in, it changes behavior. In Florida, we have boats that try to come into South Florida from places like Cuba and Haiti. Coast Guard is supposed to interdict, and they actually do a good job, but they don't have enough people. So I don't know, a year ago, we put in our boats to supplement in the state. So they come, you interdict, you turn them over to the Coast Guard, they bring them back to Haiti or whatever. And guess what? Once they know that they are not going to be able to come illegally, the number of people who even try to come by boat has plummeted as a result of that. And so enforcement works, and we're going to do that. It's going to make a big difference. But what I'm going to do that other presidents have not been willing to do is you have to understand what's the root problem of what's happening with the border. It's actually a lot of things, but the biggest problem are the Mexican drug cartels and what they're doing, because they're facilitating this migration. They're making money off bringing people over. They're sex trafficking people, human trafficking, and they're running a lot of drugs. So you can't solve this problem unless you're willing to treat the Mexican drug cartels like the foreign terrorist organizations that they are. And I will do that. I'll get that done. And that means they are invading our country. They are killing our people. The president, as commander-in-chief, not only has the right, the president has a duty to fight back with lethal force. And that's what we're going to do if they're coming. And I was actually down, if you go to the border, obviously most of it's wide open. There are places where there are walls or barricades. And there was one place where it's pretty high, steel beams, and these guys are like working at the foot of the wall. I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, we're patching up the hole that the cartels cut in it. So they literally will cut a hole in the wall, bring the fentanyl in or whatever they have, and nobody does anything to stop them. And so what I said, I'm going to have people stationed. We're going to have whatever we need in terms of the infrastructure. But if they're breaking into our country with drugs and part of the Mexican drug cartels cutting a hole in, that will be the absolute last thing they do, because we are going to leave them stone cold dead at the border. They're not going to do it after that. I guarantee you that. They will get with the program. And so we're going to do that. But that, to me, is very important for rule of law. So when all is said and done, I'm going to be able to, look, I'm appreciative of all the great things the Attorney General was saying about Florida and everybody else. And, look, I was born and raised here. I've always liked the state, but we've got a lot of pride in the state right now because of how we've handled things and the fact that we've defended freedom and we've gone our way and we fought back against the insanity that's really enveloped this country. And we're proud of that. But this country as a whole is going in the wrong direction. This country is in a state of decline. I'm actually going to be debating the governor of California in November. Can you imagine that? And that debate, it's not as much about Florida, California, because, that debate is over. People are leaving there and moving here. You can't argue with that when people vote with their feet. But I think about the future is California really represents the petri dish for leftism in America. What Biden and his crew are doing, they're about 3 or 4 years behind where California is. And so that represents the future if Biden or Newsom or whoever gets in there in 2024. And that's a recipe to accelerate America's decline. And we can't have that. Florida, what we represent a model that can reverse America's decline. We represent a model where we can usher in an American revival that will give this country a new birth of freedom. So this is an important debate. It's an important choice for the country to be able to have. And with me as president for 2 terms, and you need someone that can serve 2 terms. A lame duck president can't get the job done. I'm sorry. That's just the reality. We're going to be able to say, after 2 terms, we're going to be able to say that we restored the American dream in this country. People can get ahead again. If you work hard, you can afford a home, a car, groceries, all these different things will be fully energy dominant and independent. So we'll have lowered gas prices and energy costs, and people are going to be able to succeed again in this country like I always thought everyone can do, but yet you see people that are falling behind. And look, Washington created this mess. And it's Democrats and Republicans up there, by the way, guys. It's not just them. They've both done it. They've rung up massive debt. They've printed massive amounts of money. And you are paying the result of that. You're paying more for everything because of what they've done. And the thing that bothers me, they don't seem to care about what people are going through. They want to keep going just like they're going. No course correction, just keep doing. That's wrong. We're going to force that course correction, and the country will be better off. We are also going to be able to say, after serving, we're going to be able to say that we restored this country's sovereignty once and for all. You will have a border that matters. The border will be enforceable, and you're not going to have Mexican drug cartels poisoning our people any longer. That will happen. We're also going to be able to say this country is still the world's leading superpower, that our military is strong. People are going to want to join the military in large numbers again, and we will have successfully fended off the threat posed by the Chinese Communist Party. That will mean the 21st century is indeed an American century. We're also going to be able to say that school systems in this country are dedicated to educating kids, not indoctrinating kids. We'll be able to say that the rights of parents are once again respected in this country. We're going to be able to say that kids are being taught to understand our Constitution and what it means to be an American, and we will leave the woke mind virus in the dustbin of history where it belongs. We're also going to be able to say that we restored the Constitution of the United States to its proper place in this country, and that means having a government that's limited, a government that's working alongside us, not an unaccountable bureaucracy that's weaponized against us and that wields power without proper constitutional constraints. If we restore the Constitution, we will be able to preserve this country as a government of, by, and for the people once again. And finally, we will have restored, in every community in this country, we will have restored the rule of law, we will have restored public order, and I don't care where you live, I don't care who's getting elected, in every corner of this country, the bad guys need to be brought to justice, and the good guys need to be protected, and that's exactly what we'll do across the country. And so I thank everybody who's been a part of today's event, the endorsements. We've got great support really across the country from law enforcement. And the thing is I travel different places, and these guys thank me for just standing up for them, even though they're not even in Florida. And I think part of it is because we've been strong on it, and I'm proud of that, but I think part of it is there's just been so few voices out there who've been willing to take strong stands. So we're willing to do that, but the decline of public order, the decline of rule of law, that is contributing to the decline of this country. And 2024 is make or break for this country. We're not getting a mulligan on the 2024 election. The time for excuses is over. We have to make a decision. Are we going to be the first generation of Americans to turn over to our kids and grandkids an America that's less free and less prosperous than the one we inherited? I am not willing to do that. I have a 6, a 5, and a 3-year-old. My wife and I want them to be able to grow up in America where they have the same or greater opportunities that we had growing up. And look, I grew up right across the bay in Dunedin, Florida. I can tell you, if you went back, do we have anyone from Pinellas County here? Yeah, Dunedin. All right, there we go. I can tell you, if you went back, 30, 40 years when I was a kid and said, that guy would be governor of Florida in 50, no one would have believed that, trust me. But I think it shows good that, and I wasn't even planning on that. I was planning on baseball and stuff. But anyways, you end up doing it. So you can do well, at least you always could. So we have to do that. And so I'm motivated by that. But I'm also motivated by a sense of obligation to people that have sacrificed in previous generations. When I used to go up to Washington and fly up there, there was a particular route you could take on the plane that took you flush parallel to the National Mall. So if you looked out the left side of the plane, you saw really up close, beautiful views of the Lincoln Memorial, the reflecting pool, the Washington Monument, all the great monuments, and even up on the hill, the beautiful U.S. Capitol building. You felt a sense of pride as an American because that symbolizes the ideals and the principles that make us unique as a country. But after doing that a few times, I realized, as impressive and as awe-inspiring as that was, those monuments were not the best monuments for our country. Because if you looked out the other side of the plane, you looked over the Potomac River, you saw a series of small, nondescript monuments orderly arranged over the rolling hills of a place called Arlington National Cemetery. And it occurred to me then, and I believe now, you can have the best Constitution in the world, you can have the best Declaration of Independence in the world. These things do not run on autopilot. It requires every generation of Americans to step up and defend freedom when it's under attack. And yes, that may mean putting on a uniform, risking your life, and indeed giving the last full measure of devotion and service to this country like the people buried at Arlington did. It may just mean doing your part as a citizen, doing your part as a parent or a grandparent. It may mean just showing up to a school board meeting and holding people accountable for what they're doing in the schools. Whatever you have to do in 2024, any contribution you make, just understand it's not cost-free. There's going to be people that aren't going to like that you're standing up for what's right. There's going to be people that could attack you. Certainly, I get attacked all the time. That comes with the territory. But leadership is not cost-free. Leadership requires sacrifice. We're not asked to sacrifice at anything close to the level that the people buried at Arlington were asked to sacrifice and did sacrifice, but we're asked to get the job done in 2024. We're asked to make sure that we're not going to let this country continue to descend the way it's descending. We need a restoration of common sense in this country. We need a restoration of normalcy and sanity in this country. And we will get the job done. We will get in there, and everything I promise I do, I do. I don't make promises that I can't keep, but I can promise you we will get in January of 2025. We will spit nails. We will work across all these different issues. You're going to have an energetic, you're going to have a president that's leading, that's not worried about polls, that's not wedded to the teleprompter, but is going out and getting stuff done. And we're going to do that for 8 consecutive years. And at the end of that run, at the end of that run, we are going to be able to say that we restored America to what President Reagan called the shining city on the hill. We'll have left the city stronger, we'll have left the city freer, and we will be turning over this country to our kids and grandkids better than we found it. Thank you all. God bless you. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Bright futures help you go to college. Okay, good deal. Yeah, we're excited about that. And where are you from here?
Pennsylvania originally, then Rhode Island, and Florida.
When did you move to Florida?
2 years ago.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay. Honestly, I don't like talking about me. I go out and people say, talk about military, talk about this stuff, talk about your kids, all this stuff. I like focusing on you. But I will say, realtors will tell me, this is the first time I've ever had people come saying that they came to a state because they like the governor. When has that ever happened before? All right. Anybody else? Yes.
Governor.
So I'm used to seeing people on the left protesting you and demonstrating against you, and now it's just crazy seeing people wearing Trump shirts that are coming at you. Are they just upset that he didn't finish the wall and that you will?
Well, here's just the reality. If you want to know who's done more to actually implement and deliver on America First policies, the person that's done that more than anyone else in these United States is right here, me. That's just the reality. That's the reality.
Governor, hi. You and Donald Trump have gone back and forth in the last few days over who turned Florida red. Do you believe that you have more support here in the Sunshine State than the former president?
Well, he won by 3, I won by 20, so I don't know what you think is better. Yes.
I support you, but how are you going to get the votes he fills stadiums?
Not anymore. Not anymore. Yeah. So here's the thing. How do you actually win? And we won the best election that any Republican governor candidate has ever done in the history of Florida. We have supermajorities in the legislature. We flipped the Hillsborough County Commission to Republican. Who thought that was possible? But what I noticed, when you do these elections, it's all about, banking the votes that you need. And so when I remember in the 2020 election, Biden just stayed in his basement, and it's he wasn't really doing anything. But you know what the Democrats were doing? They were cleaning our clock in Nevada and Georgia. They were harvesting votes. They were doing all this stuff. Now, we banned ballot harvesting in Florida, and it should be banned. It's wrong. But I'm going to tell you this, as your candidate, if harvesting is allowed in a state, I'm harvesting. I'm going to get the votes that we need to win. I'm not going to fight with one hand tied behind my back. I'm not going to whine about it. I'm going to look at the battlefield, and I'm going to execute a plan to be able to win and to be able to win big. But here's the thing. A voter that goes to 10 rallies, their vote counts the same as somebody that's unenthusiastic and then goes and votes. And we just have to understand that. And people will act like 2020, they're like, Biden was such a disaster. But here's the thing. I don't think anybody voted for Biden, okay? They were voting against Trump. That was why they did it. Let's just be honest. He energized Democrats. You could have John Kennedy walk through the door right now and he wouldn't energize Democrats as much as Donald Trump does. That's just the reality. What did we do in Florida with these Democrats? We defeated these Democrats. We left the Democratic Party in Florida in a pile of ruins. They're dead. In fact, if you go back 2019, 2018, or 2019, 2020, the Democrats had 300,000 more registrations than we did as Republicans. And partially because of our leadership during COVID, that really started to change. So by the time I got reelected in November, we had 300,000 more Republicans than Democrats. And we never had more R's than D's in Florida history. We did that with me being governor. But here's the best part. 300,000 advantage. Today, that advantage is 600,000. We've added another 300,000 advantage in 1 year. Are you kidding me? Yes, ma'am.
Governor, what do you think has to happen or change for you to become the GOP frontrunner?
So here's the thing. When I was running, and every race I've run early on, nobody said I was the front runner, but you know what? That's how I like it. We want to go, I can tell you, you win on contest by contest. There's not a national primary. So we're doing things like I've spent the last 6 weeks spending a lot of time going to rural counties in Iowa. That is not getting you a lot of fanfare. It's certainly not going to move a national poll, but we're banking people that are going to go caucus for us when it matters. That's all that matters. Who shows up in Iowa in mid-January, New Hampshire, South Carolina, all those different places. And I wouldn't trade places with any candidate for where we are in Iowa. I think we're going to have a tremendous victory there, and I think it's going to be something that's going to totally upend all the conventional wisdom with everything that we do.
Yesterday, according to your campaigns, Donald Trump currently has about $30 million more cash on hand for the primary. And I'm just wondering, if you're the better option, how that happened.
Well, why is he raising that money, and where's that money going to? Isn't it going to a lot of lawyers? I mean, seriously, like that, I get that, and I get he had a lot of boost on some of those things, but if you look at total all the different committees, we're still ahead of everybody when you count the other PACs and everything, and we're going to continue to be very strong. People tried to say this months ago. That was wrong. We proved them wrong. We're going to continue to prove them wrong again going forward, but 100% of what we're doing in our entire universe is being spent on actually delivering the victories that we know we need. And I think that's important that that's going on. So,
Governor, can you talk? Thank you. Talking about money raised, you had
in Southwest, or are you up here now?
I'm up here for you today.
Oh, okay.
And just asking, you were able to come through with $15 million. Do you feel comfortable you're going to be able to continue to raise the money needed to stay in?
Of course. Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like, look at all these other candidates. Like, we're blowing them away. A lot of you guys don't ask them these questions. Like, they should be asking, with all this stuff. And also, Florida, as you know, when you start at the end of May like we did, that's the end of the season. So we're just now getting into the season in Florida. So I've got a lot of stuff that we're going to be doing. So we're going to be very strong on that. We've always been very strong on that. But that ultimately is only one component. The component that matters more than anything is a candidate that's going to go earn people's votes. Nobody is entitled to be nominated. Nobody, especially anybody that couldn't even stop Joe Biden. You are not entitled to be nominated. You've got to earn the nomination. You've got to show how you're going to be able to get the job done, how you're going to be able to make these changes and that are necessary for the country. So we're on the ground. We're earning it from people, town by town, county by county, doing all that stuff. And that is not necessarily a question of dollars and cents, although you need that to be able to do different things. But that's just a question of who's going to earn it, who's going to put the work in. And you know what? Not that a campaign's the same as actually doing the job, but we need a president that's got energy. We need a president that's going to be full throttle for 8 years. We don't need any more presidents that have lost the zip on their fastball. And right now, we're going to be able to go and we're going to be spitting nails. We're going to get the job done. And you guys can here's the thing. What I like about Florida is you don't really have to worry about politics here. Something happens, I'll get it done. Don't worry. You don't have to worry. We see things, we get out in front of them, we take care of it. I mean, just think of all the different things that we've done. I came in, you know what? Even before the border was as bad as it's now, it's like we're banning sanctuary cities. We're not going to do that, right? Then we come in and say, you know what? We need to have school choice for everyone. So we do that. We implement it. We need to cut taxes we cut taxes. We need to run surpluses. We've done. We need to pay down debt. We've paid down 25% of our total state debt just since I've been governor. So it's good. But that's the thing. Critical race theory. We eliminated in our K through 12 schools. Gender ideology. We stood up to Disney to get that out of our schools in Florida. And we're happy to do it. So I think we need to get the country back to where, political controversy is not dominating our lives, not dominating our society. And so with me as president, it's just going to be wake up, execute the mission, go back, tuck my kids in at bed and say, read them, go back the next day, execute, come back and do it. It's all about delivering results. I'm sick of the fanfare. I'm sick of the entertainment. Politics is entertainment. I'm sick of all the distractions and all the hoopla and all this other stuff. Now is the time to focus 100% of our energy on the American people and what we need to do to turn the country around. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.